remember, it's not like we keep saying $1 million. It's like the actual number is not that. Like the $1 million is not the goal here.
Yeah.
What you need to say is how much your living expenses are times 25%. 25.
So every year you withdraw about 4% of your portfolio.
Yep.
So 4% of $1 million is 44,000. So does that mean you don't buy any luxury items at all in order to live this lifestyle?
Well, one of the things that's interesting about traveling, and you realize this when you become a full-time traveler, is that you simplify your life by not bringing things with you, because there is like a constraint, like
so
airline
you're also
constraint.
a minimalist.
Yeah, so part of it
by
choice, because we ended up traveling and then we figured out like, okay, so what is it that we need in order to be happy, right? And the thing is, when you first start traveling, you're like, oh, I need to bring this. There's like things that I absolutely need. But then once you start traveling, you're like, I don't even remember like half the things that I thought was just vital to me going forward, right? So it actually simplifies my life not to have a lot of material things that I need to take with me. So for us, like we tend to spend more money on experiences. Like we tend to go to spas a lot. We tend to like get places like Southeast Asia. We like to go swimming a lot, so we tend to be condos with pools. We like to go out with friends, so we'll like spend money on eating out. But buying things is like really not. I just don't think it adds any happiness, because when I was working, I used to be a hoarder, so I used to like never throw anything away. So our apartment was full of things all the time, and it just made me very stressed out because I have to clean those things, and some things you have to like insure it, some things you have to pay for maintenance. So over time, as we moved towards like more traveling and more location independent type of lifestyle, I started getting rid of my things, and it felt like release of stress. Like every time I got rid of things that I no longer needed to maintain, that I no longer needed to spend money on, I was like feeling more and more happy. Like my joy went up and my stress went down. So I think the fact that we spend, we don't feel deprived at all based on how much we spend per year, and a lot of it is on having great experiences. So people ask us like, isn't it expensive to travel? Like how can you possibly do it on $40,000? And we're actually very surprised too, because when we first started traveling, we thought we would spend like $100,000 or something, because when you are working and you spend on vacations, it's pretty expensive. But when you actually start traveling, you realize the world is a very big place. Traveling doesn't mean like just going to the Swiss Alps and then like nothing else, right? It really is like a mixture of experiences. Like if you, we ended up spending a year in Europe, and we still only spent that much because we divided our time between inexpensive places like Poland and Eastern Europe and places that people don't necessarily think of as like places that they travel to. But when you actually go there, you realize you can get a really good experience. Like Portugal, like we were renting places for $1,000. We were going out to eat, and like the entire meal would be like, less than 10 euros, right? So things that the regular person doesn't really think about, you start discovering these like valuable pieces of information that you get when you travel. So we don't feel deprived because we don't buy things because we don't care about them. They actually tend to increase our stress, whereas experiences tend to like make us happier.
For instance, in Poland, we found that when we were living in Poland, we were spending about as much as it cost to live in Malaysia.
Yeah.
Because for whatever reason, Poland never went to the euro. They kept their own currency called the Polish zloty, and for whatever reason, the zloty and the ringgit trade 1-to-1. So the cost of living in Poland was about the same as if you were spending ringgits in Malaysia. And we noticed this because in Poland, there were a lot of Malaysians coming to Poland and Polish people going to Malaysia to vacation and study because it costs about the same amount of money.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
We didn't know that. Who knew?
Yeah.
I wouldn't have known that either. But it's like you discover these kinds of pockets of like really low cost like areas in which people think that if you spend more money, you have a better time. If you spend less money, you have a worse time. But when you start traveling, you realize there are areas in the world that you can spend less money and
still have a great
time. And still enjoy yourself. So it's like you discover stuff like that as you travel.
Actually, we cover a lot of things actually. On your blog, you mentioned that you invest in index. Yeah, on my channel, I also talk about investing in index a lot, but your credibility is larger than I am. So, do you want to talk about it?
Well, when you invest in the entire Wall Street industry does not want you to invest in index funds because they want you to invest in actively managed mutual funds where somebody is picking stocks for you and trying to beat the market. Statistically, however, you can't tell which of those actively managed mutual funds are actually going to beat the market after fees. those guys have to get paid, right?
Yeah.
I think it's something like 85% of active money managers don't beat the overall market.
95%.
95%? Okay, after fees. So by buying the index, you will get perfectly average but very reproducible results, ranging between 6 and 8% over the long term, I think. And it makes investing is actually a lot easier than people think it is. Because when you are investing in index funds, how you actually deal with market downturns and how you deal with market like surpluses and this kind of stuff, it's quite easy. When markets go down, you just buy more of it, right? And when markets go up and your equity portion of your portfolio has gone above, whatever target that you set, you simply sell some of that and then buy more bonds. So it's actually very simple to manage, and it works. I mean, like, since we left, we had $1 million. Now 3.5 years later, we're at like 1.3. Because it's gone up more than we've spent it. So we actually have more money than when we left. So it's like, and I didn't have to do anything crazy. I didn't pick Amazon at like, I didn't buy Apple, I didn't buy Amazon, I didn't do anything crazy. I just bought the index and I just forgot about it. And it was, investing is a lot easier than people think it is. But there's a lot of Wall Street people that want you to not realize that's how you do it. I mean, Warren Buffett famously told his heirs after he was gone, just buy the index. Yeah. Because he's just kind of like, even Warren Buffett just kind of like, not everyone's like me, just buy the index, you'll be totally fine. And it's simple and it's easy and anyone can do it.
Yeah, totally. Do you have passive income? Yes. How many streams of passive income?
Yes.
Now that we're retired, we invest a little bit more heavily towards higher yielding assets like preferred shares, REITs, which are called real estate investment trusts, as well as corporate bonds and this kind of stuff. We write about all the details of exactly what we invest in the blog. So that's one source of passive income. We collect the dividends and the interest and all that kind of stuff from our portfolio, and we use that to fund the majority of our living expenses. We also run the blog.
So then part of the income, like I said, like if you work a little bit in retirement, you don't have to, but if you do, then you end up doing passion projects, and sometimes they pay you, which is actually very surprising because we were not expecting any money to come from the blog. We just did it because we actually like writing. So part of the income comes from the blog is from like affiliate income. So part of that covers the cost of the blog, and it gives us a little bit of extra income. We're also writing a book with Penguin. Okay, guys, don't think that like writing a book is going to give you a lot of money, because like the amount of hours that you put in it and the return is actually not a lot of money, but it really is like for the love of writing. Like if you really love writing, that's what you want to do. So there's a little bit of income from there. We also have like a children's book that we published before we left. That one doesn't generate a lot of income, but there's a little bit of passive income from there as well. So I would say that even though like there's passive income coming through from our side projects, we actually have created two separate portfolios. One is what we call portfolio A, which is the money that we actually retired with. It's generating the passive income from investments. And then portfolio B, which is portfolio containing money we never expected to actually get after retirement. That's just from working on passion projects because we love it. And we live off portfolio A, but portfolio B is for like extraneous expenses like donations, money to like family and friends, maybe business expenses, because now that our blog has grown, we have to pay like server fees, you got to pay like Yale Chen. So that's like business expenses and things like that. And what we discovered is that even though we are living off the primary portfolio, it has still gone up over time. Even though we've like spent, the yield coming from the portfolio, it has not been like going down. It had actually regenerated itself, even though we've spent the money. And then the money that's coming, that's just bonus, is just like extra money that you can spend on things that you don't need to spend it on, but just like extra things maybe to like take your friends out for dinner and things like that. So,
a lot of our viewers are university students and people who just started working maybe for only a couple of years. Do you have any advice for them on how to start this journey?
Oh, absolutely. I think for all your audience that are in school, it's amazing time to get started learning about investing because you have time on your side. Like that is the most magical thing. Like if you talk to like a 90-year-old man or 80-year-old man and he's super rich, but the time is what's actually more valuable, right? So if you're young, you have so much time to get into the market, you have so much time to learn about investing, you have so much time to build your career. So it's really, they really have an advantage in terms of being young allows you to have a very long runway towards building your portfolio. And not only that, you're just starting out in your career, so you really have the ability to like invest in yourself, get certifications, get that promotion, figure out what you actually want to do and things like that. So I would say invest as soon as possible, learn about investing as much as you can. Definitely get into index investing, because that's the thing that gave me a lot of peace, because I grew up in like poverty, right? So I'm the kind of person that's like very risk adverse.
So you grew up in poverty?
Yeah, so I was not born in Canada. I was actually born in China, in like kind of like a small town of only 3,000 people. So when I was, at one point my family was living on 44 cents a day. Right? So it was like from that, and then we went to Canada. My dad was a student for a while, and my mom was working as a dishwasher, and we had to send money back home. So money was like very tight in the beginning. So my parents really taught me the value of like, not like, oh no, I wish I could be rich, why can't I be rich? But more like, it could be so much worse, like be grateful for what you have and things like that. But at the same time, because I didn't have a lot of money, I was very scared of investing. Like when we first started, I was like, oh no, like this is money that, when you come from a poverty background, your mindset is very like thinking about scarcity rather than thinking about opportunity. So I think index funds really gave me a piece of mind that it's not like buying individual stocks in which the company can actually go bankrupt and then you lose everything, right? You're actually buying like every single company within that index. So you have the peace of mind that your portfolio is not going to go to zero. So it really helped my mindset. And I think for kids, for students that are young and getting into the stock market, definitely it makes more sense to think about this kind of passive investing and thinking about reducing your risk rather than buying into Bitcoin or buying into things because other people are telling you this is the new hot stock, you have to buy this. Like that's very short-term thinking. You want to be thinking like long-term. You want to be thinking for the future, and you want to think about mitigating the downsides, right? So that really helped me a lot in terms of knowing that my money will never go to zero and that I'm not getting into something risky that's being sold to me by somebody that's just trying to line their pocketbooks.
And especially for your viewers who are Asian, be really careful with housing. I mean, like our culture will. Our culture is very strange, like Chinese culture is very strange in that we tend to be very, very distrustful of the stock market, but extremely trustful of housing. And that doesn't actually make any sense. I mean, we will throw good money after bad and go into massive amounts of debt to buy the house. But for anything else, we'll be like, well, that's crazy. But debt is one of the most destructive things that you can do to your portfolio. And what we realized back when we were looking at, because we were getting all this pressure from our parents to buy a house, and at the price points that we were looking at, we would have had to go, even though we had all this money, we would have had to go into a massive mortgage and then pay that off for 25 years. Well, I mean, like, we talk about, I'm sure you talk about the power of compounding when it comes to investment, that over time, if your investments are going up every year, compounding creates this like crazy curve of money making money. Well, if you get into debt, compounding goes the other direction. It causes your money to start compounding, like it causes your debt to compound. So somebody else is getting rich off of you at that point. So the trick about any of this investing and this financial independence stuff is investing things that pay you money, but don't invest in things that cost you money. What people don't realize is houses are really expensive, and they continue to be expensive even after you buy them, because you have to deal with taxes, you have to deal with maintenance, you have to deal with real estate commissions, and all these kinds of things. And what that does is it causes your expenses to just run away, and it becomes very difficult to accumulate wealth if you put most of your money in a house. That's something that's very difficult for us to understand.
30 minutes already. So that's one of the reasons why I strongly suggest my viewers to read the book called Rich Dad Poor Dad, because it talks about assets and liability.
He also kind of takes a dim view towards housing as well, I think, right?
He talks a lot about real estate. But I think what really valuable in his book is the asset and liability concept. Not a lot of people know about that. They think housing is an asset, but sometimes it's a liability.
Absolutely.
It's actually a really subtle difference in how you own the house. Can either be an asset or a liability. Because you see conflicting reports of, I made all this money with real estate and this kind of stuff. Those people bought apartment buildings and then rented them out. If you do that, it's called an investment real estate property. That becomes an asset. But if you're just buying it for yourself and you're just living in it, that's actually a liability, despite the fact that it's the same.
Totally.
housing. So it's actually really subtle. It's confusing because a house can be both an asset or liability depending on what you do.
One of the things I found is that when people are locking so much of their equity in the house, they think that, oh, I'm generating so much wealth, and like I just need to sell it and it's going to be fine, right? The thing is, everything is in one asset. Like you can't just take off part of the window or take off part of the